Here we go. Hello, friends. Mark Holmes here, my buddy Cowboy Jobu, and you are watching the Jobu Sports Report. And here it is, Friday night, and we're going to be talking about the Dallas Cowboys. And we have a special treat for you guys tonight, Law Nation. And I know a lot of you guys are already watching this channel, and if you're not, you've got to make sure you subscribe to it because he is fantastic. So we're going to go and get to it. We got a lot of stuff that's going on tonight, and I'll be honest with you, I cannot wait to talk about all of it. So the first thing, let me get our volume turned down here. Get our volume turned down here. We got a whole lot going on tonight with the Dallas Cowboys, although it's been kind of quiet the last 2 days with the Cowboys. I think we're getting ready for the Combine that starts next week, and we are literally just 2 weeks, actually less than 2 weeks away from the Combine. From free agency. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Tony Romo, as well as what happens with our other free agents that we have. So one of the big things, of course, is everybody's talking about Tony Romo. Where will he go? Will he stay? Will he retire? let me make sure I get this question. I had one gentleman who said he's a big Dak Prescott fan. Captain Obvious 34. Love and appreciate the Jobu Sports Report, and I appreciate that. Thanks for the love, of course. Just throwing my 2 cents in the pot. I'm starting to side with keeping Romo. I'm a huge Dak Prescott fan and believe he has earned the starting position, but I already have written Romo off. But now the argument should be, should we welcome Romo back? And I'm not going to go into the rest of the question. Well, here's the thing. A couple things about that. One, I don't think Tony Romo wants to be the backup. Tony Romo played the situation perfectly, because had he created a stink or a temper tantrum, so to speak, about wanting to start, it would have been terrible. And had he been put into the starting lineup because he was initiating it, and had he failed, he would have been run out of town. His best bet and his best play was, let me sit here, be cool. If Dak fails, gets hurt, I come in, I become the saver, and I'm also the martyr. If I get forced in and force it and look like I'm being unselfish when the team's doing well, I lose. If I get hurt, then I can't go anywhere else. So he played the situation the best he could to be able to get out and keep his reputation together. I dare say I don't think that that's going to happen a second time. So as we start looking at this, from my standpoint, he's going to want to play. And he's not going to take a pay cut. If he didn't like sitting on the bench behind Dak for $20 million, he's certainly not going to want to sit behind Dak for less money. And as I say, it's not just the money for this year, because if you pay the 24 this year, he's still under contract for next year, and come this time next year, you have the same issue where you're basically on the hook for $54 million. And $54 million for 2 years for one guy who's a backup, or at best a couple-year plan, you can't do it. You've got to look at balancing the numbers and going with the best option that allows you to keep other people and bring other people in. Now, another point that I have been putting out there, and some of you guys will keep saying, why do you keep talking about this guy? Why do you keep doing it over and over and over again? Well, I got the same stuff last year. Most of you don't know it because most of you weren't subscribers last year. Most of you didn't start coming on board until Dak Prescott started playing. And for those of you who don't know, or who are new to the channel and things, after the Senior Bowl, when everybody was talking about Carson Wentz, I'm watching the game, and Dak Prescott was the most valuable player of that. And I started looking at him. Oh, man, thank you, Brandon. You're right. Jobu does need a refill. I started looking at film of Dak Prescott, and I was just all of a sudden enamored with the guy. And I kept looking at him, and I was like, am I missing something that all these other people are? Because I saw a guy that I thought looked fantastic. But, the talking head said, no, he's a project quarterback. He's a guy who needs more time. But I started at that point talking about Dak Prescott over and over and over again. I do the Benet Emery show on Monday nights, and if you haven't watched it before, I put the re-air up, but, check us out and all that. It's a show out of Dallas, so I Skype in just like I'm Skyping in with you guys now. But I kept pounding on that. Dak Prescott is the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. I said he's just like Russell Wilson. And I believe when you put things out in the universe, maybe there's a stronger being, maybe there's a force, maybe it's Jobu, I don't know. But sometimes things happen. And see, I truly believe that Calais Campbell is the piece that we need on the defense. We have a lot of good guys, but you don't have that one guy. Hi, Sarah. How you doing tonight? Thank you, as always, for joining in. Dak Prescott, future MVP, 23 beauties. Wow, we got more of the ladies here tonight than we do the guys. Hot dog. But I believe if we put that out in the universe, maybe it'll happen. Because, like I said, I believe that he is the missing piece. And I know his personality will fit in that locker room. We have had a complete culture change with the Dallas Cowboys. We had the Greg Hardys that were dividing it, where we had Des Bryant who's going up. Des Bryant's matured. Dak Prescott is this calming force that everybody feels comfortable around. Well, that's Calais Campbell. He's a gentle giant off the field, and he's a beast on it. I'm going to embarrass myself here tonight because about 4 years ago was the first time I met the guy. Now, I used to play football in college. Back in the day, we were a lot smaller than they are today. I'm about 5'11", right now about 260, but back then as a nose guard, I was about 220, 225. So, I'm pretty good size. I'm not anything to sneeze at. But when, I can't believe I'm doing this. Me next to Calais Campbell, I look like a 5-year-old kid, literally. Calais, like I said, is like an eclipse. Okay, here's my embarrassing photo. Again, it was a great event with United Way. We had like 18 NFL players that were in town, and they had us all running in between, and we were high-fiving the players. If you notice, that's me. Calais Campbell is leaning over. You see the size of this guy. Literally, he is an eclipse. But at 300 pounds, you don't see a sloppy belly on this guy. The wingspan alone, he can reach over and grab people. This is a guy who's averaged about 60 tackles a season and averages about 7.5 sacks every year while being double teamed. About $9-10 million a year. You sign up for 3-4 years. I'm telling you, he will teach these guys. He will be a calming force. He will be a leader. So that's what I'm trying to put out into the universe. So now you've seen my Jerry's Kid picture. So enough of that one. But I'm really excited because tonight we have Law Nation is going to be on here with us. He's going to be calling it at 9:15 or 8:15 Central his time. And we're going to have some great talks about the Dallas Cowboys. Let me go ahead and give a shout out to all you guys that are on here because I've been sitting here running my mouth and not getting here. Eddie Dunlop, that's a new one. Robert Hart, Pablo, Robert Gonzalez, Man of La Manca. How are we all doing tonight? Thank you guys for tuning in. I know it's Friday night, and you probably have a lot better things to do than to listen to me rant and rave about the Dallas Cowboys. But I appreciate when you guys coming through here. DJ Grob, yeah, Law will be calling in about 5 minutes, man. So we're going to end up having a great conversation. Now, one thing I want to ask you guys to do, and I don't want to seem like a beggar or anything, but If you haven't subscribed yet to the Jobu Report and you like what we do here, please subscribe and pass it on to a friend. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get to 10,000, because at 10,000, YouTube will allow you to live stream, and you'll be able to live stream from events and things like that. So we're trying to be able to do that, so that way when we get to the draft and stuff, we'll be able to live stream what's going on and everything else with you. And it looks like Law Nation, can you hear me, my man?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Let me welcome to the show, Law Nation. And like I said, if you haven't subscribed to his show, definitely check it out, because he does a lot of live streaming and stuff. He's got his whole podcast. He's got a Facebook channel and everything else. And it's fantastic. You definitely want to go ahead and support him as well. So Law Nation, go ahead and tell everybody about yourself and your channel, if you don't mind.
Well, basically, I hope my body's not too loud. But basically, I'm a diehard Cowboy fan, as we all know. I just don't like the Cowboys. I love them. I absolutely love the Cowboys. I do every film review, news genre, all that good stuff, all mixed up in one. I try to give as much feedback as I can on Cowboys Nation as it relates to, channel and inspirations and motivations and what we can do to improve our team collectively. So that's all be in a nutshell right there, guys.
Man, well, that's fantastic. And we've got a special refill for you here of some of Jobu's rum, man. It's very bad to steal his rum, but sorry if he gives you some. But yeah, there we go. We got to definitely support the Cowboys. Well, I was talking about Tony Romo and everything else, where he might land. He's all over the map, because you hear everything from Buffalo to the Texans and everything else. But I personally think he ought to consider retiring. There's not that much more he really can prove, and I'm not sure that his body's going to hold up, because I've seen some of these players that are younger than me that literally can't walk. And I'd like to get your opinion on what you think, if he should continue to play, retire, stay with Dallas, or what do you think, Law?
My biggest thing for him is to go ahead and retire. That's what I wish that can happen for him. But outside of that, he's been an intricate part to our team. He's been there. He gave up a lot of his body and all that stuff. But it comes a time when the bridge is just giving out, and it's just time to build a new one. And Dak Prescott is going to be that new bridge to take us over to, when Jerry Jones said he wants some of that glory hole.
Oh my God! Well, I always say that Jerry Jones likes the limelight and be in the spotlight, and he's going to say something, to get you over here talking. And I think the team really uses that almost as a distraction a lot of times, because it's okay, because he's over here, the press is all chasing him and everything else, and they're making the real decisions over here. So it's kind of like a bait and switch. So Jerry has his fun, but the team is managing business. And I think from the time we brought Will McClay in and allowed him to be able to pick players, that it's been the turnaround for our draft and getting the talent that we need in the team. But, hopefully we can have another great draft. And I pray that we can get this team together for next year, because I look at the schedule. I'm sure you have too. It's going to be a killer. And we've got some real quarterbacks that we're going to have to face this season.
Yeah, we got top grade quarterbacks that we must face this year. But iron sharpened iron, steel sharpened steel. Mm-hmm. I really think deep down in my heart that Dak Prescott will not be like the RG3s of the world and whoever it was, Nick Foles, that people were trying to put in the limelight of. I really think this kid is something special. And what was that coach from the Saints?
Sean Payton?
Said, hey, Sean Payton said, hey, Dak Prescott.
Well, see,
he's not going to have a sophomore slump, guys. He's fantastic.
See, here's the thing with me, and I like to relate everything. I love history. I love studying the old games of football. That's one of the reasons why I took the job that I do, where we do a lot of work at the Smithsonian and stuff, is just following history. And a lot of times you can find a pattern of what happens and will happen from the past, because there's nothing really new. But when I look at a guy like RG3 with his whole attitude, he was so selfish. I went to Redskins training camp, and I looked at him after that rookie season, and I just saw that leg, and I knew that leg from having knee injuries myself, wasn't ready to play. But because he had that whole Adidas thing that he was trying to force the issue and get out on the field, knowing that it would hurt the team. I look at Dak Prescott, and he's a guy that doesn't have to say, me, look at me, I'm great, and all that. He leads by example. And that's why those guys follow him. He's calm. He's cool. You know, they said, Terrence Williams said, you know, it's nice that you don't have a quarterback that's jumping all over the place with, you know, in the huddle and stuff. This guy is calm and cool as can be. And when you think about the pressure that he has been under, literally scrutinizing every single play he does, and with the fear of being pulled, if he didn't fold as a rookie then, I don't see it happening next year. I mean,
Right.
at least that's the way I feel about it. Nick Foles, he still never looked like he had it to me. You know,
Right.
but, you know, time will tell. We'll find out next year because it's definitely going to be a lot different than it was for this year, this rookie year. Everybody's going to be coming for him.
Right. Everybody's going to be trying to come for him. They think that they know what they're talking about with Dak Prescott, but this guy is unfazed. You know, I really think that another year in this offense and building that rapport, I just really think that we're going to just set the top off of everything.
Yeah.
But we must find one more explosive player on the offense, though.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to another question for you. What is the biggest free agent that we need to keep on our team, in your mind? Which one, if you can only sign one guy, what is that one guy you got to say that we have to keep?
If we was to just keep one free agency, I would figure out a way to keep McFadden. I don't know for sure if we possible can keep him as to being an intricate part of being behind Zeke the Freak. And I'll figure out a way to keep either Church or J.J. Wilcox. J.J. Wilcox came up, you know. He had a lot of upside this year.
I think he's going to command a lot of money, though. I think JJ is going to end up getting a big fat contract out there. I think he's going to be more expensive we can keep. Church, I think we'll be able to keep. I almost think Brandon Carr will probably be re-signed. I don't know how you think about that. And I know a lot of people just don't like Brandon Carr. But the problem is we have so many cornerbacks that have to go, and there's a high price on them that we may not necessarily be able to bring in 3 guys, all as cornerbacks, to be able to afford them and expect them all to be able to play well. There's a lot to be said for having familiarity with your team. And you'll notice a lot of teams are looking at trying to keep their guys. That was one of the things I think that actually helped our defense some this year, was we kept a lot of the guys from last year.
Right. We did keep a lot of guys. I don't know if I'm cutting you off. There's a little delay on our talking here.
Oh, no problem.
But
no problem.
Yeah, it's a little delay. But what I can think of is that we cannot sleep on our offensive line. We got to figure out what we're going to do with Ron Leary. We got to figure out if Doug Free is going to be a commodity that we keep, or we're going to kick Collins out to the outside and play right tackle. Well, and I hope that Jonathan Cooper can be an intricate part on our offensive line. Those things are they're not sexy to keep, but those are the picks those are the positions that we must stay focused on too as well. So believe it or not, guys, we got a lot of holes to fill.
That's what that's what I keep trying to tell people. Everybody keeps saying, oh, no, you don't want to sign any free agents, big name free agents. Just use the draft. Well, we got 7 draft picks. We got 21 free agents. And everybody says, oh, get rid of Carr, get rid of Claiborne, get rid of Doug Free, let Terrence Williams go, let Bryce Butler go. Well, right there, that's 5 guys that you got to replace. And, we need a pass rusher. So then when you start thinking about some of the linemen we have, some of the linebackers, backup quarterbacks, we have a lot of people that we either have to re-sign or replace. So, I hate to keep beating that horse, and I don't know if you're watching before where I was talking about Calais Campbell, but if you're able to get a guy like that, that opens up the draft. God. So it literally opens up the draft, because at the moment we are looking solely at focusing on a pass rusher. Well, what if all the great ones, there's a run and you lose the top 6 of them in the first round? Then you're reaching for a guy because you need him. You may have some fantastic players that might be able to help you, but you can't do it because you're reaching for this guy who may or may not be the person that helps you. You put Calais Campbell there, all of a sudden you can draft the best guy available. You can possibly move back in the draft and, create more picks. And a lot of people aren't fans of moving back, but there's a team that's up north that is famous for stockpiling draft picks. You don't ever see them moving up. They're always constantly moving
Patriots, the Patriots figure out a fantastic way to get multiple picks in the second and third round and every year.
And you'll notice how, when they get linebackers who decide that they want to get a pay raise, they get shipped off to Siberia. To Cleveland. So,
you're speaking my language, man.
And that's where, when we moved up to get Claiborne, and I was just like, don't move up. That's 2 picks. To me, drafting is like a crapshoot. You got about a 50-50 chance of hitting. I don't care if you're in the first round, second round, third round or not. And if you end up spending multiple picks to get a guy and it fails, it screws you. Look what happened to the Redskins trading up for RG3. Look at the Rams this year with Jared Goff, because all things point to him being a bust. You give up that much for one guy, it sets your whole team back. So I think that for more reasons than just a pass rusher, I think it actually opens up the draft and gives us options. I think one of the best moves the Cowboys did was in 2013 was moving back in the draft, drafting Travis Frederick. And with that extra pick we got trading 49ers, we got Terrence Williams. And of course, everybody laughed at the Cowboys. Oh, you could have got him in the second round. The Cowboys, Jerry Jones is going crazy. But looking at it now, it's a pretty wise move.
Very wise.
So in free agency, who do you think would be our biggest move besides me talking about Calais Campbell? If you had the money, who would you target in free agency?
Well, if I had the money, I would surely try to get Calais Campbell if the price is right.
Looks like we kind of lost the feed there. I agree with the Calais Campbell. Calais probably about a $10 million a year deal, which right now, Tyrone Crawford, his cap number is $10 million. I'm just saying, I'm not saying cut Tyrone Crawford, but when you start looking at how much he costs,
versus like a Dentari Poe, he plays the one technique. I can see him playing in the middle of our particular offense.
He's definitely a big wide body in there.
Right. Yes, big wide body. I'm talking about if he's able to play in the middle of our defense and we kick Malik, because Malik can play 3 technique. And also Jack can play the 4 and he can play the 3 technique too as well. So it's a strong possibility if the price is right, though. 7 to maybe no higher than 8 to 10. If we can figure out a way, if somebody is willing to play for us, then I would make those type of gambles and risk. Like the Stephon Gilmore of the world or Eric Berry. Tremaine Johnson may ask for too much money.
I think Eric Berry definitely is going to be out of our price range as well. Some people have mentioned JPP, but it looks like Eric Berry and JPP their teams are trying to re-sign them as well. So they're definitely I think they're going to be out of our price range anyway. But to me, again, I still say that your biggest bang for the buck is getting that defensive lineman because he helps on all levels. He keeps the linebackers clean if he's taking double teams on. If he's able to get to the quarterback and have them make a bad pass, you're getting interceptions, or putting enough pressure on it that the cornerbacks only have to hold up for 2 or 3 seconds. It's a big difference than if they're having to hold up with Aaron Rodgers out there for 7, 8 seconds. He's going to pick you apart. I don't care who your cornerbacks are. Richardson for a 3rd round pick. Sheldon Richardson to me is one of those guys that has got some off-field issues. I love the direction of the team in the locker room, the Jason Wittens, the Dak Prescott's and stuff. I love that team, that guys constantly work together. That offensive line, they go out to eat together. They go everywhere together. I remember seeing that at the Pro Bowl and seeing those 3 guys just walk together everywhere they go. So it's almost like a family. And then you bring somebody in there who's kind of like Greg Hardy was. You can divide a locker room real quick. I remember my own personal experience. And when I was saying about Dak as a leader by example, as opposed to saying, listen to me, I'm the boss. We had a quarterback that just was an asshole. And it was always like, do this, you guys aren't blocking worth crap. What the is wrong with you? That kind of stuff. And I remember the last game of the year, we decided to do a good old lookout block. And for those of you who don't know what a lookout block is when the ball snapped, you turn around and say, look out. And they cleaned his clock and knocked him out. So those kind of guys, you kind of say, why am I putting all my stuff on the line for this guy? He's an ass. So personally for me, he's not one that I would look for on this team. And I don't think that he's that great of a player that you risk it. Greg Hardy, you looked at his number, you said, okay, maybe that's worth the risk, but that ended up turning to crap. I had a person who, Schwartz, I believe it is, was asking if he thought if we were using our defensive line right. When you looked at the numbers for Irving, with his lack of playing time, should he have been playing more as well as, say, Collins? Because we do so much rotating on the defense that a lot of these guys really aren't getting a lot of playing time in there, and maybe they should be in there more constantly. I'm going to let you answer that and then give you my take on that.
Yeah, well, now, Marinelli's system is designed and set up for a rotational system. He always had that type of rotational system. And we just have a slew of guys that just these journeymans. We don't have like a fantastic, outstanding player, but Irving came into the mist midway through the season. I think that his come out game was against Green Bay. We all know that he just came out the Rodgers, the first Green Bay game, of course. But by his ability, he's long, he's got range, he's quick, he's got a great motor. But when he kicks out to the outside and play defensive end, the kid is just unstoppable. And if we can just get somebody else, if a healthy DeMarcus Lawrence was healthy, or if we had Randy Gregory to stay off the weed, then we would have saw a real different type of monster in Irving. So, but I don't like when he played defensive tackle. I don't like when he played the one technique and when they kick him to the inside and play the three.
Right.
Because he, although he's long and tall and big, he's still lanky for his build. He's kind of too long for his build. Yeah.
I'm going to get to a couple of the questions we had in here from some of the fans. We have no compensatory picks this year. However, if we end up losing some of the guys we have next year, maybe a banner year for getting some more. And free agency, football is a gamble all the way around. So I know free agency is a gamble. But what you have to look for, to me, is you have guys that in their contract years just have fantastic years. Their numbers just all of a sudden spike up. Jason Hatcher was one of those guys who averaged about 3 sacks a year until he got to that contract year, and all of a sudden he got 11 sacks and, got the big fat contract with the Redskins, and he kind of dropped off. When I look at a guy like Calais Campbell, every year he's 5, 6, 7, 8 sacks a year. He's always, 50, 60, 70 tackles. And it's been consistent throughout his career. He's only missed 6 games in all of the years that he's played. So it's not where he's in a contract year and all of a sudden you saw a big spike and then it dropped. I think that that's the kind of guy you look for. And I think you have a better shot with a guy like that because at his age, what he wants more than anything else is a ring. He's made $55 million in his last 5 years. He's got the cash. He wants to go to a place to get that ring. That's the most important thing to him. Shout out to 100, Cody. Not much, Cody, same old stuff. If Darren McFadden goes, should we draft the Oklahoma running back?
Well, the Oklahoma guy, Joe Mixon, it'll be a PR nightmare. I was watching on NFL Live today. They were talking about just not bringing in those guys who are questionable to the combine. But I would say if he's anywhere close to 3rd or 4th round, it's time to reach into your pocket.
Right.
Just say, hey, we about winning. If the New England Patriots will grab them, if not the Green Bay or I would say the Kansas City Chiefs that is released their running back. So it's so many, or even the what's called it, Seattle Seahawks. They will pick them up. So we can't just say, okay, well this incident happened. Yes, it was nefarious. Yes, it happened 3 or 4 years ago. The kid was only 18 years old.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying I don't want everybody to think that it's okay to hit a woman.
Right.
But at this point in time, when will he ever be able to play? You telling me he shouldn't work at all?
Well, as long as he's not a Dallas Cowboy, it's okay. The minute that the Dallas Cowboys bring a guy like that, all of a sudden everything goes out, which actually brings me to one of those other things. A lot of you guys are wondering why I had the good old Jobu was assaulted videos by Stephen A. Smith. I was trying to use that as a teaching moment. I was actually going through my videos and stuff, and I happened to see where Stephen A. Smith was actually just trying to fist pump, and it was actually pretty cool. And I keep telling you guys that the whole act on First Take, it's really for entertainment purposes. I don't think he hates the Dallas Cowboys, but he realizes that's how he can get publicity. He was actually a pretty cool guy. I've actually met him other times before. So he was there giving me a fist pump, and Jobu's hand got caught in his coat and got knocked down. So I took that and was like, oh, he assaulted it. Because when you see TMZ, when, last week we heard that Ezekiel Elliott was being held by police.
Right.
It was blown out of proportion. Yeah, his buddy came to the club with a gun, but that wasn't Zeke. But they made you think that he was taken down to the police station and held there. That's the way the story came across. In the same way when he had him and Dak went to the nightclub and had champagne. And it wasn't even at night. Of course, there was a whole lot made about it. So whenever you're a Dallas Cowboy, you've got that target on your back. Because I've seen other players and other teams that have done far worse. You never hear about it.
Right. Especially the Seattle, they had the Clark guy. I think his name was Frank Clark.
Yeah.
The Kansas City Chiefs had the guy, what's his name? He did all the kickoff returns and everything. He was just fantastic this year. He actually had domestic violence with his pregnant wife. He had a pregnant girlfriend or something like that. I forgot his name. He was a rookie.
And I'm trying to remember, Seattle drafted 2 years ago. I believe it was a tight end who had been
something like that.
Yeah, who had been convicted of domestic abuse and beating up his girlfriend and stuff, but didn't hear anything about that. So, again, Dallas Cowboys, you're in the spotlight, and that's one thing that I think Zeke's got to understand, that everything he does, everywhere he goes, he's got paparazzi following him and will take something that's insignificant and try and make it into something really big.
Shout out to Magic Toaster. He said Tyreek Hill. Yeah, that was his name. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. You're watching the feed too. Man, see, you can multitask, man. See, you're younger than I am. I'm old, and technology is a problem for me. I have a hard time just finding the feed on this thing when I first start up. Hey, Dank Boy, how you doing? Brandon Green, Eddie Jackson from the safety from Bama. You'd really want to see him. Well, he definitely is a playmaker, and if you did get a guy like that, you could end up taking Byron Jones and moving him to corner, which would definitely help out a lot. And again, that's where if we can draft the best player available, it just opens up so much for us that I think we'll be in better shape. It'll be interesting to see what the Cowboys think, see which way they want to go with it. Let's see some of these other questions in here.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I lost you, but not. But yeah, I agree 1,000% on the best player available. If John, your board, I think I heard Brian Broaddus talk about not window dressing your board, meaning that you try to pick a position that is cute. You go by whatever is on your card.
Yeah.
You pick the player that is highest on your card.
That's right.
If you loaded in offensive lineman.
Right.
For instance, we loaded an offensive lineman. If the best player available at 28 is the offensive lineman, then damn it, come hell or high water, you go with that player. You don't go window dressing your board and say, well, I kind of like John Ross better, or I like Tack McKinsley better. You go with whoever's the highest point on your board, and you just grab that person. Just don't get cute. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you. Don't reach.
Don't get cute.
And that's kind of what we did with Claiborne, because it was like, oh, he's the best player out there, the can't miss player. Yeah, well, we kind of missed on that. Chucky Baby wanted to know if either of us will be doing any live feed during the combine. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I have a day job, so it'll be hard for me to do any live streamings during the day. I'll probably do some videos and stuff in the evening, and I always live stream now on Monday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern. While I'm getting ready for the Benay Emery show, do the show and stuff while we're live streaming. And I think Friday nights is definitely going to be 9 o'clock Eastern when I'm going to be live feeding. But I believe that you're going to be doing some live streaming during the combine, aren't you, Law?
Right. I'm going to try to do a recap of all of the combine, who to look out for, what did we learn, what did we investigated on, or what did we come up with, who's running the fastest, who got quick hips, or who running the 3-cone drills, those things that who got the tenacity, strength, and all that good stuff, the length, who's going to be the unsung hero of the combine, like the Byron Jones of the world. So
right, yeah, the workout warriors, the guys that look fantastic there. But the question is, to me, is can you play? because you're not doing a shuttle run out on the football field. You're going to do this stuff right here, and you'll never do it again. So a lot of times you get these guys that move their draft stock up because they have great workouts, and they end up can't play. You get guys like Tom Brady, and if you go back and you look at the clips of what Tom Brady looked like at the combine, you would not say this guy was an NFL quarterback. I mean, he had a good old inner tube around his waist and stuff. And what did he run, like a 5.4 or 5.3 or something like that? I mean, so it's a tool, but you can't gauge everything off of what you see from there. On there. So I'm looking forward to that. It's actually been so far a really interesting off season, because here it is, we're 3 weeks in, and it's like nothing stopped. We have all the Tony Romo talk. We've got, of course, the combine next week, and then less than 2 weeks away, we have the start of free agency, and we know that's going to be interesting. You and I haven't touched too much on Tony Romo. Do you think the Cowboys are going to get a trade for him, or do you think they're just going to out and out release him? I think they're going to release him before the night, personally.
So most of the time, if you can figure out a way, and I mean figure out a way, if you can hold that card just until you get to the draft, teams are getting anxious. And I think it was a great thought that came into mind when they said, hey, Tony Romo is worth a third-round pick. To move up from the 28th pick to the 20th pick is a third round. So who holds the 20th pick? Guess what? Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
So if we can move up from the 28th pick to the 20th pick and ship Romo to Denver, then that could be a plus for us, and we can pick up a dominant pass rush from there, or whoever we have the highest on our board.
Well, I'm hearing rumors that Jason Garrett and Romo are supposed to be meeting next Wednesday. I think they're going to do like they did with DeMarcus Ware, because they had that meeting with DeMarcus Ware, and we all thought that maybe he was going to take a pay cut to stay in Dallas, or we were hoping he would and all that. But I think that we're going to have the same scenario right there. That's going to be, Tony, we're going to let you go so that way you can pick the team you want to go to. I had just the craziest question in here, and I'm assuming that it must be a troll. If you're not a troll, then forgive me for calling you one. But who is better, Dak or Carson Wentz? Really?
Oh, buddy. That question will forever be answered, and from different various people. One would argue and say, well, Dak Prescott had an offensive line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last I checked, Peters, he's a Pro Bowl offensive lineman for the Eagles. And from what I'm looking at, didn't the Eagles have the #1 defense for a long time?
Oh, yeah.
This year, last year, what have you?
Well, time will tell. One of the reasons why I looked at Dak, too, differently than Carson Wentz was, one, I looked at the numbers last year from him in college. Mm-hmm. The second thing I looked at is the school he played at wasn't a school that wins. They're the Southeast Conference, the best conference in the NFC. I mean, the NCAA. One of those teams almost every year is a national champion. 50+ guys a year go to the NFL. Versus Carson Wentz, who's playing Division 1A in a conference that puts in 2 or 3 guys in the NFL. So I was looking at him playing at NFL caliber players without players around him, versus Carson Wentz, who was playing kind of in the step down division. And that's one of the reasons why I said, okay, if he's able to do this there versus Carson Wentz against lesser talent, I kind of thought that he would be better here. But again, it's only first year. Anything can happen. But I just looked at Dak having and being able to make all of the different throws in all different types of games. And we saw that this year, from playing with the lead, from playing from behind, having to go down the field and get a game-winning score. He handled the pressure like, like a 5-10 year veteran. So I think we're going to be fine with Dak. I just worry about the schedule we have. We're going to have teams that are going to be gunning for us. When you talk about having to play Denver with that defense, when you're talking about having to play Kansas City, where Tony Romo might be the quarterback, and if they could be pretty good if Tony Romo's there with the defense that they have. You look at the Raiders, that's going to be another tough game. We got Atlanta, we got Seattle, we've got Green Bay, of course, which has been our Achilles heel, and of course the NFC East. You got to figure the Eagles will be better. The Giants had defense of theirs. We lost to them twice. I think Eli Manning is still regressing. And you still have the Washington Redskins, and those games always go down the wire. So there's not a lot of gimme games in there. We may be 10-6 if we're lucky, quite frankly, with that kind of schedule. I don't know how you feel about that, but it's going to be a killer.
Well, I always look at it from the aspect of shouldn't teams be worried about us?
Well, this is true.
We was 14th ranked overall in defense, right?
Yeah, in yardage. Points we were actually overall, 6th.
And
fourth in points, yeah.
And I think offense, right?
Yeah.
First in defense pass rush, and defensive run stop, right?
Number 1.
Fifth in overall points allowed, and then 26th in what you call passing. Mm-hmm. So I think that if we can shore up a few things, then teams should fear us. I just look at it from the other way around.
Yeah,
Dak Prescott is going to be more seasoned. He's going to be more poised out there in the field.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that, of course, teams have their offseason regiment to combat what we do. But I just feel like Will McClay, he's going to do something special for us, man, and we're going to be happy come draft day. I
hope so. I've got a person here asking if we should re-sign Terrence Williams. It's not going to be cheap. I like Terrence Williams. If it has to be Bryce Butler or Terrence Williams, I would take Terrence Williams over Bryce Butler. I've been really disappointed in Bryce, but I think he may end up being one of those ones that's just going to cost too much, kind of like Harris was a couple of years ago.
What do you think he asking for?
I think he may be. Well, they're basically saying that his value is about a $28 to $30 million contract for 4 years. That's what Sports Track is reporting. So when you start looking at that kind of number, if that's what he is in fact looking for, that's going to be a little bit out of there. But the interesting thing, though, is when you hear about him talking about Dak Prescott, I think he's one of those guys that doesn't necessarily want to leave because the grass isn't always green on the other side. And
right.
you look at DeMarco Murray. Do you think DeMarco Murray was happy he took the cash to go to Philadelphia instead of staying in Dallas? I bet you if he could do that one over again, I bet you he would have stayed in Dallas for less money.
Right. And history supports exactly what you're saying, Mark. The Larry Brown deal. He went to go get the money. Mm-hmm. Alvin Harper, he went to go grab the money.
Oh, and they did terrible elsewhere. Alvin Harper literally stole money from Tampa Bay and Washington.
And Larry Brown, he held the Raiders hostage, right?
Right. Oh, definitely. Well, he lived off of those 2 interceptions in the Super Bowl. I mean, literally, because he wasn't even a full-time starter during the season, which was crazy. But Al Davis is like, I want that guy. He's was always trying to make the big play. Anthony Wheat said, the two of us together is like Madden and Summerall. I don't know if he's trying to say that we're just like really old, or if he's making that as a compliment or not, but I appreciate the kind words.
Way to go, John.
Do I see Mo as the Sean Lee of our cornerbacks? Well, Sean Lee only had one problem, and that was his knee, which he had when he came out of college. Morris Claiborne seems like every time he just breaks something new. I mean, I had never heard of anybody ripping a piece of bone off the groin. Right. I just think he's just kind of snake bitten. I think that's one of those situations where he's never going to live up to what we gave up for him. And it may be best for both sides to go ahead and say, start over elsewhere. I just don't think he has it. He played fantastic for those 7 games, but it's a 16-game season plus playoffs. And if you can't be there, your best ability is your availability. He just has not been a guy we could count on. So I think we're definitely going to need 2 cornerbacks at the very least.
Well, yeah, we're going to have to shop around and find somebody. AJ Abuye, I think I said his name, comes into mind. If he lamented the fact that he wants to play for Dallas. And how many people love to play for Dallas, right? Everyone, right?
Oh.
But if we can get a guy, just a playmaker, anybody that can just make plays, he'll just put our team over the top.
Kind of wish we had Bobby Wagner instead of Claiborne. Yeah, well, that would be great. There's a lot of guys I wish we had instead of Claiborne, but
Luke Kuechly was in that draft pick. In that draft round we picked. Claiborne over Luke Kuechly. So you can imagine Luke and Lee back in the backfield together.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I am excited about Jalen Smith right now. The early stuff I had seen of him was basically him running straight ahead, and I'd heard that the nerve was beginning to fire, but he was still having to wear that brace on it. But seeing him being able to move laterally, to go through the blocking dummies and stuff like that, if he's anything like he was in college, putting him next to Sean Lee may be fantastic. It will definitely be a big, big boost to the team. You know, Jerry Jones is, in the way that Tom Landry had went to black schools when nobody else was going through and finding talent elsewhere. Jerry has been trying to do that by getting injury players that, you know, we can get them on the cheap, or if they've had some problems, you know, maybe we're getting them in the second round, but they're a first round talent. Sometimes it works. I mean, Sean Lee, now that he is finally healthy, last 2 years, Pro Bowl player and been playing lights out. But we had all those years where he wasn't able to. Randy Gregory has got talent, but can't, as Stephen A would say, can't stay off the weed. And he's not going to help us, you know. So here it is. He missed 14 games this year. He's going to miss all of next year. We got to get guys that can play now, because you don't know what the dynamics are going to be 2-3 years. You can say, oh, yeah, well, Dak's going to play for 10 years. Well, they said the same thing about RG3. When the Redskins drafted him, they said the Redskins are set at quarterback for the next 10 years. So you don't know what the dynamics are going to be. You may have, you know, Tyron Smith could get hurt and be done with his career. So you've got to plan for now and try and make the run while you have these pieces together. With us renegotiating contracts here and kicking it down the road, you don't know what those effects are going to be down there. So you got to look at right now. We need guys that are going to be impactful this year.
Right. And like you say, I don't want no project type of players. We need somebody that's going to be able to step it up and show out. I'm tired of project players. I'm tired of the McDuffies of the world. I'm tired of the tired of all these project players, the McDuffies, the Randy Gregorys, the Greg Hardys, the Lucky Whitehead. The only project player that worked out for us, I believe, is number 11, Cole Beasley. You know, he was the last guy to work for it. All these other project type of players, I just feel like we just need to, Jerry needs to reach in his pocket one more time and grab somebody that can just step out and show up. And that'd probably be your Calais Campbell.
Well, to me,
we need somebody.
Well, here's the thing. Like I said, I'm a history guy, and I look at the Green Bay Packers before they got Reggie White. They were a team that was constantly good, but they just couldn't get over the hump. But once they got Reggie White on that defense, it just brought everybody together. In fact, brought that whole team together, and boom, they ended up winning one Super Bowl, and they went to a second one. So that guy was the difference maker. And I can look at the Dallas Cowboys from the 91 season where they lost in the first round of the playoffs with, you know, a Troy Aikman, you know, young quarterback, an Emmitt Smith, and Michael Irvin. Does that sound kind of familiar to you guys? Because it's kind of like what we have now. But we got Charles Haley in that offseason, and as crazy as Charles was, and I can verify that Charles is crazy, he brought that defense together, where that defense became that number one defense that was part of that dynasty. So I look at a guy like Calais Campbell that hopefully can bring that defense together and really turn around and take that next step. And that's why I keep pounding it out there. And I know you guys are like, this guy's a broken record with it. But again, I'm just trying to put it out there to the universe and hope maybe the Cowboys hear me and follow along with what I've been saying.
Oh, yeah, we follow along with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sean Moore thinks we need to let Lucky Whitehead go. Lucky's had some flashes, but from the time he was suspended from that one game, it seemed like all of a sudden he was not the same player anymore. And I think, he might be one to go. Yeah,
McDuffie says it all. Moving one project player to another project player. And don't forget about our other project player, number 19, Bryce Butler. He's a project.
Bryce can go.
Nicholas mentioned Ron Leary. He was a project player, undrafted too, as well.
Yeah.
Technically, if we look at it collectively, what have Ron Leary done for us? You know,
well,
he's asked for a whole lot of money now.
He had well, I'll tell you what, it was actually fortunate for us that we didn't trade him in the offseason, because he did step in for Collins and he had a fantastic year. But the question you have to ask is, was that year because it was a contract year and he's going to regress, or is he going to end up being that player down the road? I think as far as with guard, I think we'd almost be better off if we take Collins and put him at tackle. And the other guy we brought in for the last game of the season in the playoffs, God, his name's slips me, the guard we signed. I'd like to try him out at guard, and I would also like to try Chaz Green. You know, he's a big body.
Right.
He's had a problem staying healthy, but guard is not the same as tackle. Tackle is so important, as you can tell from what happened with Doug Free. You're facing the speed rusher that's out there. You're facing the most athletic guys on the edge, and you're almost on an island. As a guard, generally speaking, you're backing up, you're helping the tackle, you're helping the center, you're getting the blitz. So you can be a lesser guy in the middle. To me, that tackle is more important, and that's why I would put Collins out there and, you know, try and work something else with the guard, because you got Travis Frederick on one side and you got Collins on the other. But we'll see how that shakes out. I think as far as running back goes, I think Lance Dunbar might get re-signed. I think McFadden will probably end up going, as well as God, I'm having a brain fart here. Our running back from Washington, Alfred Morris. I think that he's going to be on the street as well. But I don't see running back as big a priority as I do looking at the wide receiver and looking at the defensive line and the defense, because our offense is up here. Even if we lose some of those guys, we're not going to take that much of a step back. Where we can really make a major improvement is that defense. If we can get that defense to get up to close to a level like the offense, then watch out, everybody.
Right. So, yeah, I'm following your philosophy. If we can up our
Texas T, I disagree. Well, Dunbar's had some injury problems, but I got to tell you, Dunbar, when he's healthy, coming out of the backfield as a pass catcher, has been fantastic. And again, it's one of those guys that, you know, he needs to get healthy and stay healthy. But when he is healthy, I think he's a player. Agreed, Texas T. Well, there was another question here.
If Dunbar can ever stay healthy,
that's a big question.
He can play 16 games.
Right. There was another question here I missed, and I can't find it. The screen's kind of rolling by a little bit quick, and it's hard for these old eyes to keep up. Somebody had asked about Jason Garrett, and as far as coaching goes, I'm hoping that he's studying up personally. I'm happy about the way the team stayed together, but I still think that we have, when it comes crunch time, that sometimes we don't get the right call, or we just seem to be not quite there. I would almost like to see him have a little bit more emotion than the good old clap, we'll get him next time. Because sometimes I feel like it's like a little league team he's coaching. You know, everybody gets a trophy for participation. You know, after we lost to Green Bay, it was like, oh, I'm so proud of the guy. You know what? How about showing me you're upset? How about looking like you're more than just happy that you got a job working for the Cowboys? I'd like to see some emotion. I'd like to see when a guy screws up on the field that they get that look that knows that they screwed up and I better not do it again, or I might not be here. But that's just my personal opinion on Jason Garrett. We've had this experiment with him for 10 years. I don't know if he's ever going to be that guy that's going to be that Super Bowl champion. You may feel differently on it. And then we have guys that are as passionate about him as they are about Tony Romo. And I'll probably piss a few of you guys off, but sometimes I just don't think that he's not quite the guy.
Yeah, my take on Jason Garrett is, if I may intervene, is that coaching is a fickle process. You can have your cheerleader ask coach, you can have your coach with the fire and brimstones and stuff like that, but at this point in time, as this team direction is going, and you know how difficult it is to deal with Jerry Jones and his philosophy of being an owner, operator, and all that jazz. But the problem is, collectively, who's you going to get to come in and coach for the Cowboys?
That's the problem.
That's the only conundrum of it. Now, granted, Jason Garrett's career record is just not something that you can just laugh at, but he never had a losing season outside of last year. 2015. And then on top of that, if you look at it collectively, what Coach Landry did, it's kind of like mirror images. And I'm not calling him the next Tom Landry. No, I'm not saying that.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
But let me say this one point right here.
Okay.
Tom Landry First, this is the fun part about it. Mirror. You can just Google it. Go to Wikipedia. Tom Landry's first 2 playoff losses came with who? The Green Bay Packers, right? Yes. So the mirror images just look it up. It's just so much of a mirror type of image of looking at Tom Landry's career. Although Tom Landry played and also coached with the Giants, also Jason Garrett played and kind of did some type of sideline coaching with the Giants too as well. They kind of like mirror one another.
Okay, if that is true, then
it's crazy though.
Okay, if that is true, then Tom Landry started coaching the Dallas Cowboys in 1960. In 70, they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Colts. They lost to the Colts. They lost to Green Bay in the championship game at the Ice Bowl, which was 65, the year I was born. They then went to the Super Bowl. They had a quarterback controversy with Roger Staubach and Craig Morton went to Denver. So maybe we should look at trying to get Tony Romo to Denver and see if we can play them in the Super Bowl. You know, I'm a history buff here. I think that would be fantastic. I'd love to see that one. You think John Kenley thinks that Garrett's done okay? He hasn't had that much to work with. I love some Romo, but I think he's responsible for just too much of our failures as he is our successes. Well, you know, you can say that. Tony Romo, the reason why people love Tony Romo is one of the things that's also been part of the problem. Tony Romo loves to throw the deep ball. He's the gunslinger. And sometimes that can get you into trouble. And I think sometimes the coaching staff has put him in poor positions. When we were up 26-3 against Green Bay that one year, and it wasn't against Aaron Rodgers, we passed more in the second half than Green Bay trying to catch up. At that point, you got to say, we're up 26-3, run the ball. Even if it's 3 and out, every time you have 3 and out, you're taking off about 3 minutes on the clock. That doesn't leave enough time for a team to come back on you. You look at Atlanta. Atlanta, I swear when I was in the Super Bowl that I was watching the Dallas Cowboys. Here it is, second down on the 31-yard line. You kick a field goal. You're up by 2 scores. Run the ball 2 plays. Run off, a minute and a half off the clock. Kick the field goal. You're up by 11. The New England has a minute and a half to try and get 2 scores. You win the game. But instead, they passed 2 plays, ended up having a sack and an incomplete pass, took off 10 seconds on the clock. New England drives down the field for 1 score, ties it up, and boom, they lose the Super Bowl. And that's kind of the thing that I feel we get with Jason Garrett a lot of times. Sometimes you miss some of that football 101 coaching. Still there, Law?
Oh, yeah, I'm still here. Yeah. There's a little delay on my end.
Oh, sorry.
But if it's just one of those things that one-on-one coaching with Jason Garrett. But at this point, I'm kind of like, come on, Gary, gotta get us one, man. I can just visualizing him holding the trophy up. So it's kind of crazy though, but I just think Jason Garrett is a better coach, believe it or not, than the coaching kid up there in the Steelers or whatever his name is, Mike Thomas. Mike, whatever his name is.
Mike Thomas,
I think Jason Garrett is a better coach. I know I get crucified for that all the time, but I just really think that this year will prove so why. Watch what he's going to do. This year we're gonna go all the way. I just feel it.
I hope so. Like I said, it's unfortunately in the NFC East we haven't had a repeat champion team since 2000-2003 season with Philadelphia. So that would definitely be bucking the trend. One last question here. Some people were asking if Anthony Brown can be our number 1 cornerback next year. Well, if Claiborne's gone and Carr's gone, he may definitely be the number 1. Skandrick has definitely slowed down a little bit. Hopefully he's through those injuries and will play a little bit better. But unless we end up having a big free agent signing, he probably could be our number 1 cornerback.
Now, the only conundrum, I like to use that word conundrum today,
okay.
Is where are you going to put Anthony Brown? Is he going to play right corner? Or is he going to slide him over to the left corner? If we're going to get rid of the 2 cornerbacks, will he be able to make those transitions, or do you keep him where he's at? That's always the deal with that. So I wouldn't hedge my bet on that. What I would do still, I would go out and get a was growing pains again. We don't have time to be playing around with this thing.
Right. Yeah, so we definitely need to go. Man, the time has literally flown by. Law, we have been on here for an hour talking about our Dallas Cowboys. And
Right.
so, I'm old. It's past my bedtime, so we're going to go ahead and end this thing. Law, I want to thank you for coming on tonight, man. This has been fantastic. I hope the fans out here enjoyed the conversation. And if you haven't subscribed yet to Law, check him out on YouTube, man. He's got some great conversation. He's actually able to do a lot of live streaming stuff during the daytime and things. So definitely show him some love and stuff, because he's helping to spread the mojo just like I am. And as always, guys, I want to thank you guys for watching, commenting, subscribing to the Jobu Sports Report. We are going to try and take this thing to a whole nother level. If you like what you see now, it's going to get even better. So have a great weekend, and I'll be live streaming Monday night at 9 o'clock. And we will see you next time.